Hello and welcome to another episode of Geared Toward Gear. My name is Sean and I am so glad you're here. I'll start by saying the title of the video is not clickbait. I do in fact believe very strongly actually that the Baton Pro, although it's a good flashlight, I think it is far more hype than it is performance. I think you're paying extra for something that is inferior to the previous version, or I guess kind of the next step down, so to speak, which is the S2R Baton II. And then of course you've got the S1R, which is kind of the little tiny baby brother in the Baton series. So there's kind of your progression of your Baton flashlights. But I want to talk about the Baton Pro today, kind of do a little review and overview and give you my thoughts. Some will be objective based on fact, others will be subjective based on my personal preferences and opinions. So let's quickly go over just a couple things to kind of get them out of the way. So both of these lights run on the same battery source, and that is an 18650 lithium ion rechargeable battery. They come with the light and they are charged using the magnetic charging cable that comes with the light. So you just slap that on there and it charges in the light. Here is one of those batteries. The one that comes in the S2R is a 3200 milliamp hour battery. The one in the Baton Pro is 3500 milliamp hours. So it's got a slightly higher capacity to store energy. And in theory, higher capacity equals longer run times. And we'll kind of talk about how that's not the case here. But they do both run on the same battery. And I'll also note that in order to utilize the magnetic charging capability, you have to use the included Olight battery. You can put a different 18650 in these lights if you would like to, but if you do, the magnetic charging will not work. So just something to take note of. Again, just to get it out of the way, let's talk about the user interface. How do you operate these lights? Because they're identical. The user interface is identical. So the way they operate is quite simple. And it's a very common user interface among Olight flashlights. So you've got a number of modes. You have 5 specifically. You have a moonlight mode, which is kind of your ultra low mode. Then you have your turbo, which is your maximum. And then in between you have low, medium, and high. So to get to moonlight, you simply press this side switch and you hold it. And that takes you to your moonlight mode. From there, all you do is press and hold, and you will cycle through low, medium, and high. So press and hold, low, medium, high, low, medium, high, and just let go whenever you reach the setting that you're looking for. And to get to turbo, from any setting, even from the off position, just do a double tap of the side switch, and that'll take you straight to your maximum output, which on the Baton Pro is 2000 lumens. Press it one time to turn it off. You may have noticed that green light. That was the battery status indicator. And green, I believe, is greater than 70% battery life. It'll turn orange, I think, once you get around or below 30%. And once you're kind of critical, like 10% left, it'll turn red. So that's the basic UI. And I'll just, again, quickly demonstrate that with the S2R. Press and hold for your moonlight setting. Then again, press and hold to cycle through low, medium, high, low, medium, high. Let go once you reach your desired setting, and double click for turbo, which on the S2R is 1150 lumens. Okay, so the Baton Pro, it came out, it was marketed very heavily by Olight. They did a flash sale on both this kind of limited blue color as well as the black version. And they talked a lot about the fact that it can put out 2000 lumens, right? That's almost twice what this light is capable of. And at first glance, that sounds great, right? Brighter is better, right? If this light can get that much brighter, why would I not want this light? In my opinion, if somebody were to ask me, hey, Sean, I am looking for a flashlight in this general kind of size class, a single 18650 flashlight, and I'm looking at Olights, which one do you think I should get? 7 days a week, I would recommend the S2R Baton II. I would recommend this before I would recommend the Baton Pro, hands down, no questions asked. And that's just how I feel. You may disagree, and if you do, that's totally fine, because again, this is not a bad light. It functions just fine. It's got a great warranty, great user interface as far as I'm concerned. So it's not inherently bad. I just think that you are paying extra for a light that is actually inferior. And let me explain why. Okay, so first let's talk about the output. Maximum output. What are these capable of producing at maximum capacity? The S2R 1150 lumens, the Baton Pro 2000 lumens. Okay, so almost double, as I mentioned. Here's the thing. The way that our eyes perceive light, when we're talking about the lumen rating of a flashlight, it's not a one-to-one correlation. Meaning, if this was exactly 1000 lumens and this was exactly 2000 lumens, this does not mean that this is twice as bright. It will not look twice as bright, not even close actually. The general consensus from everything I've read and heard and researched on my own, just from being in the flashlight community and being a total nerd about flashlights, is that in order for the light to appear twice as bright, it actually has to have 4 times the lumen output. So an example of that would be if this light was 100 lumens and this light was 400 lumens, 4 times as bright, it would actually look to your eye twice as bright, as opposed to looking 4 times as bright. So just some kind of food for thought, I guess, is that just because the lumen output is double does not mean it's going to look twice as bright, because it's just not going to. It will appear brighter, for sure, 2000 compared to 1150, but it will not appear twice as bright. Again, it's not a one-to-one correlation. And we'll do some beam shots at the end so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So that's one thing to keep in mind. 1150 lumens, pretty damn bright. 2000, pretty damn bright. And it will be noticeable, but not as drastic as I think most people would assume. So that's one thing. Another quick side note, just before I get any further, the pocket clip on this light is awful. It's the same one that comes on the S2R. There's like no retention. And the first time I carried this out to dinner with my wife, it fell out of my pocket onto the seat, and I almost left the restaurant without it. I do like that it has kind of the two-way reversible clip, so you can put it on a baseball cap and all that fun stuff, but it has just no retention. There's nothing really keeping that thing securely in your pocket, and it sticks out a good half an inch out of your pocket as far as how deep it carries. So what I recommend, and what I do with my Baton series flashlights, generally speaking, is I swap it out for a S1 Mini clip. So the S1 Mini clip carries much deeper, as you can see, only about maybe 1/4 of an inch is sticking out, and the spring tension is significantly tighter. So when this is in my pocket, although the pocket clip is like half as long, this thing is like 10 times as secure in my pocket. So, and you can buy these clips off OlightStore.com for like $2 or $2.50 a piece. So I have like 10 of these clips, and I put them on all kinds of stuff. So that's just a quick little pro tip. So let's talk about the outputs, the run times, and things like that. And that, I think, will give you a better idea of why I think this is way more hype than it is actual performance. So we've got the Baton Pro on the right, the S2R on the left. Same thing with the boxes, Baton Pro, S2R. So let's look at that turbo setting. Again, we'll see those numbers that I mentioned were alluded to, 1150 on the S2R and 2000 on the Baton Pro on turbo. Now, how long is that going to last? On the Baton Pro, that's going to last you for 1 minute before it drops down to 600 lumens. On the S2R, it's going to last you for 2 minutes before it drops down to 400 lumens. So let's kind of pause there. So you're getting 2000 lumens on this Baton Pro, and that sounds phenomenal. It's a big number. We like a lot of lumens. but you get it for 1 minute. For 60 seconds, you're going to experience 2,000 lumens, and that's it. You will not see that again until you completely recharge this flashlight. And that's the case with all flashlights. I mean, the S2R has a lower lumen output, of course, at 1150, but it lasts for twice as long, which logically makes sense. So for me personally, I would much rather have 1150 lumens for 2 minutes than I would 2000 lumens for 1 minute. And that's, again, personal preference. So the reason that happens is that the driver, which is kind of the brains and the electronics within a flashlight, they get physically hot. The temperature rises when you have that many lumens being pumped out, and it just can't handle that without being damaged. So it will automatically step down to protect itself, which is a good thing. But again, 2000 lumens, that's the big thing with the Baton Pro. 2000, 2000, 2000, that's for 60 seconds. Okay, so just remember that. After 60 seconds, it's going to drop down to 600 lumens for 160 minutes. Okay, so there's 60 minutes in an hour, so that's 612, 2 hours and 40 minutes on 600 lumens. So that's kind of your step down. On the S2R, you're going to step down to 400 lumens, which is less than 600, but you're going to get that for 230 minutes. Okay, so a much longer runtime on 400 lumens than you get with a Baton Pro on 600 lumens. The difference between 400 lumens and 600 lumens to the naked eye is nowhere near as drastic as you would think. Nowhere near as drastic. So again, for me, I would much, much, much rather have 400 lumens for 230 minutes after the step down than I would 600 lumens for 160 minutes. That's my personal preference. Okay. Then we start looking at some of the other modes, and we look at the outputs, and we're going to notice that the high setting, if you were to go straight to high, I'm not talking about turbo and then the automatic step down. I'm talking about if I just turn one of these straight to high, I'm going to get 400 lumens for 4 hours on the S2R and 600 lumens for 3.5 hours. Again, for me, I'll take the extra half hour and lose the 200 lumens. That's just my preference. On medium, we'll notice that they have the exact same lumen rating, 120. But we'll notice that the S2R lasts longer. So that's kind of curious, right? The Baton Pro has a larger capacity battery, but on medium, it's going to last less time than it will on the S2R. So kind of interesting. Then on low, we'll notice that the difference in lumens is pretty significant, right? It's half on the S2R what it is on the Baton Pro. So you get 15 lumens for 100 hours or 30 lumens for 55 hours. So 30 lumens for 55 hours, 15 lumens for 100 hours. Again, and I'm probably sounding like a broken record, I would personally much, much rather have 15 lumens for twice as long than I would the 30 lumens, okay? 15 lumens for 100 hours for me is way better than 30 lumens at 55 hours. Because again, when you double the output, you're not doubling what you see with your eye. Then we look at the moonlight mode, which is your dimmest setting. And in my opinion, a moonlight or a firefly mode should be either 1 lumen or a half a lumen. On the S2R, you get a half a lumen, and that's going to run you for 2 months, 60 days. On the Baton Pro, you get 5 lumens, which again, for me, is too bright for moonlight, and that lasts for 9 days. So once again, I would much rather have a half a lumen moonlight that'll last me for 2 months than I would a 5 lumen moonlight that'll last me for 9 days. So when it comes to run times and kind of the mode spacing, I just think the S2R wins kind of across the board based on my preference. The other thing to note about the specs on these lights is that the throw or the distance that the light is rated to travel is actually further on this light than it is on this light. This one's almost twice as bright, right? Twice as many lumens, but it's not going to go as far. And I think part of that is that on the Baton Pro, they're using more of a frosted optic. They're both using the TIR optic that Olight is known for, but on the S2R, it is a crystal clear lens. And on the Baton Pro, it is a frosted lens. So that could be contributing to that difference in throw or distance. And it's not significant, but I just think it's interesting that the new and improved Baton Pro doesn't go as far, right? And you can see the differences. It's only a few meters difference on turbo, only 10 meters difference on high, so it's not substantial, but again, I'd rather have a light that goes further than a light that doesn't go as far. And then lastly, the candela rating is also higher on the S2R than it is on the Baton Pro. Candela is simply, I guess the most simple way I could put it is that candela rates how effective a light source can reach out and touch an object at a distance. So a good practical example would be a laser pointer has extremely high candela because it can put light, it can put that laser on a very specific object at a very far distance. So it's going to have a very, very high candela rating. Whereas a floodlight, like the ones you may see on somebody's driveway, those automatic floodlights are going to have a very low candela rating because they put light over a very large area. So the Baton Pro has lower candela. It has less throw or distance. It has higher lumens, but for not as long. And it costs $20 more. So that just kind of says it all for me personally. And again, you may completely disagree. And if you do, that's fine. There's not like a right or wrong answer here. And as I mentioned, this is a perfectly fine flashlight. I mean, it functions beautifully. It's beautifully made. It's just, for me, more hype than it is performance. I really think they did an excellent job marketing this flashlight, and a lot of people bought them. And I don't think they necessarily should have. Or at least, I would hope that anybody who bought a Baton Pro also has an S2R, because I think it's the better flashlight between the two. I will probably not carry this too often. It'll just kind of be a part of the collection. I'll use it from time to time around the house, things like that. But for EDC, this is probably never going to find its way in my pocket, whereas this one does, as well as the S1R, the little baby. So that's my kind of overall thoughts on the Baton Pro and why I think it is more hype than it is worth, and that if you were looking for a flashlight in this size range, that's your winner every day of the week, according to me. Again, your mileage may vary, and I'd love to hear in the comments actually kind of what your thoughts are, because again, there's no wrong answer. So if you have a Baton Pro, or maybe you're looking at one and you think that this is just a better flashlight because it can put out 2,000 lumens, then I'd love to hear that. And you're not wrong for that. I can't make that clear enough. There's not a right or wrong answer, but for me, I would just never recommend this over this. Not that I wouldn't recommend this and say, hey, it's a good flashlight, because it is. It's just not as good as this. For the way I use my flashlights for EDC, I'm just going to get a lot more value from this light than I'm going to get from this light. So that's why I think the Baton Pro is more hype than it is performance. So on that note, let's head outside just briefly and take a quick look at the beam patterns on these lights, compare the brightness, and give you a little bit better idea of what these things can do. And once we get outside, we'll go ahead and close out the video. So stand by, and I will meet you in the backyard. All right, welcome back to the backyard. It's rather windy, so I got the mic pretty close. Hopefully you can hear me. The camera might even shake a little bit here, so I do apologize. But let's start with the S2R, the one that I think is superior. And let's just go ahead and go straight to turbo onto this tree right here. See how bright that is on the tree and on the shed. That is the S2R Baton II, 1150 lumens. That tree is at about 50 feet and the shed about 100 feet. So that's the S2R. Let's put that guy away real quick. And let's bring out the new Baton Pro. Bump him straight up to turbo, which is going to be 2,000 lumens on the tree and on the shed. Okay, so that's the Baton Pro at 2,000 lumens. So now let's get rid of that guy and do kind of a side-by-side, and I'll show you the two kind of back and forth between them. So S2R, Baton Pro. S2R, Baton Pro. S2R on the left, Baton Pro on the right. As you can see, there should be a discernible difference, but it should not be drastic. Baton Pro, S2R. Baton Pro, S2R. So there's your quick beam shots. Again, for my money, it's the S2R every time. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Hopefully the audio wasn't too disrupted by the wind. So thanks again. I do appreciate it as always, and I will talk to you soon.